Welcome to the Pat White Show.
Well, if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you may remember me talking about what could happen if the Democrats were able to take over the House of Representatives after the election of 2024. And I said then that Jamie Raskin of Baltimore, he would utilize the 14th Amendment, Article 3, which says that anyone involved with insurrection against the government cannot hold office, and in this case, the presidency. Now that came up in that law, and a constitutional amendment was created back after the Civil War, because the Congress didn't want any members of the South being into Congress, so they enacted this amendment. It can be overridden by a majority of a big majority, but that being said, if you remember some months back, the Colorado Supreme Court said that, hey, Trump can't be on the ballot because of Article 3, rather, and 14th Amendment. That went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court by 9-0 said, no, you can't do that. States don't have that right. That belongs to the federal government, which takes us where we are today. Well, The Hill, a publication in Washington, D.C., two gentlemen, Evan Davis and David Schulte, are saying to Congress, hey, you need to utilize this. You need to stop Trump from being a president by not allowing him to be voted on by the Electoral College because he is, quote, an insurrectionist. Gave aid and comfort to the enemy. And so what they're saying is, do what Jamie Raskin was going to do, but Jamie, obviously, since he's not running the Congress or not heading up a big committee, would have been able to do. So what does that mean where we stand? Well, you know, on the 6th of January, the House and Senate get together to certify the electoral vote. They get together, one big giant group, certify it. And once they do that, then that's when you have the coronation, if you will, on the 20th of January. But if the Democrats decide to bring this up, now I don't believe it's going to pass, but there's a couple of things they could just muck up the works, and I mean muck it up pretty badly, so that literally they don't vote on a president, they don't pass the Electoral College in the given amount of time. That could even delay the inauguration in January the 20th. Will this happen? I do not know. I'm just telling you what I said in the past. This would be something they're going to try. It may not work. It probably won't. But are they going to try it? My guess, they probably will. And what will happen then? Well, it's going to turn into a giant procedural mess, because all they're doing is slowing down the process. Now, that could result in, if there's no president elected come January the 20th, it falls into a member of Congress who becomes the president, which is about as weird as it gets. But I'm just trying to tell you what could happen, because the Hill publication is saying you must stop the election. President Trump is an insurrectionist because of the issue that happened January 6th, the riot, if you will, and the fact that he was indicted in Congress. They went after him when they did the impeachment. Now, it never cast the full Congress, but he was still impeached. So they say he's an insurrectionist, he must not be allowed to serve, and therefore they're going to create a giant mess that could drag on for weeks and maybe months. Just telling you something you need to know. Well, there's been a lot of hubbub going on about where all those drones are coming from, flying over states like New Jersey and New York on the East Coast. Turns out that there's a big business going on in the world of drones. Didn't realize that until I did some more digging, discovery, if you will. It turns out the war in Ukraine is basically a drone war. I know that sounds really strange when you think about normal war with tanks and guns and what have you. But if you look at all the videos, and most people don't, that everything in that country is now turned to drones. The Ukrainians are using them big time, and there's some companies sending them drones. So by research, I've discovered in Australia and through the Financial Times newspaper and the London Daily Mail, I've been able to learn who some of these companies are. There's one company in Australia called SPYPAQ. SPYPAQ has actually created paper drones. Well, they're not paper, they're wax-coated cardboard. It looks like something you buy from IKEA. They're in flat packs. And they have 24 drones in a flat pack. Cost anywhere between $700 and $2,500 per drone. And they put them together. And like I said, it's cardboard, wax-coated cardboard. And they measure about 2 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters. And yet they have a box, a container on them in the center of them that'll hold about 6 pounds. Well, you could put electronic cameras in there to do surveillance, or you could put ammunition in there, like bombs, grenades, whatever you want. Fly them around. These things would fly about 75 miles, and they're controlled. You got a guy sitting there wearing a little thing like you see on the video stuff people are wearing, the headset. He's been running the whole thing, and the drone flies that way, and they fly it wherever they want. I've seen video of them going into the openings in a tank, a hatch, if you will, going into a tank, flies right into the hatch and blows up. The Soviets are deathly afraid of these drones flying, and so are the Ukrainians, because the Soviets are using them too. And there's a company here in the U.S., actually started in China, called DJI. Was created by a guy named Wong Tao. They call him Frank. And they're trying to get that banned in the U.S. because DJI makes 40% of all the drones in the world. They're a leader in China. We want to get them banned. But this drone being made by SPYPAQ in Australia is called a PPDS. It means Precision Payload Delivery System. And over in Ukraine, they call it the origami of death. So these things are flying. They're very accurate. They can fly all over the place. And they're not bothered by radar because, well, they're paper. Radar ain't seeing nothing. And then if you try to take out their communication system, they have an internal guidance system. They know where they're going, know what they're going to do, and they go and do it. They blow things up. That's what it's existing now in the Ukraine war, and apparently companies in the U.S. are trying to get involved in selling their drones to these countries. It's a drone sale. Everybody wants to show what they've got, what they can do, and buy our drones, they're saying. That's what's going on. Now, you may not agree, but if you do some checking, do a little research, you're going to find out that the Ukrainian war is drone warfare, folks. That is how technology is changing. Now, drones are the big thing. Just pay attention, take a look, and you'll find out for yourself. Well, for Christmas this year, there was something special for you to watch on TV. Because on Christmas afternoon, on Netflix, not on ABC, NBC, CBS, on Netflix, two football games. Pretty interesting games, so if you think about, well, one was kind of a blowout. But the point being is there were two football games on Netflix. And this was so big, the ratings were monstrous, as it turns out. These were the largest number of people to watch an NFL football game in, I don't know, maybe ever, as far as Nielsen goes on doing the ratings on this. They had over 25 million people watching a football game on Netflix, which is pay-per-view. All right? That tells you where it's going to football, folks. Get ready. That NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox football, free, that's going away. Eventually it will be. It'll be pay-per-view. If you want to watch football, get ready to pay for it. Netflix proved it. But here's the big thing. And the Netflix halftime show was Beyonce. Her halftime show, her cowgirl show. And I don't know about you if you watched it or not. It's Beyonce. Being a cowboy, sorry folks, I enjoy country music, but this ain't country music. Now, she had a couple of other guests on there singing with her, and that's, she's got Post Malone and a guy named Shabuzi, and I don't know who any of those people are perfectly. Hey, if I'm stupid, I'm stupid. Sorry, I don't know who they are. I don't care. But that white bodysuit and the whole thing riding in on the horse, did all that in the halftime. That's like a Super Bowl halftime. But she wanted to promote her Cowboy Carter album. That's what it's called, Cowboy Carter. Upset that it didn't make the Grand Ole Opry or wherever it is. Country music did not see this as country music. Sorry, just how it is. Now, the bigger thing is she did something in the game that is not allowed by the NFL. They hoisted her up on a platform and she did the shooting finger, like this. Big sign drops out, bang. Can't do that in the NFL. You do that in the NFL, it's a 15-yard penalty. But obviously she's not playing football. She's a halftime entertainment. So apparently she can do whatever it is she chooses. But here's the other thing. Where was the American flag in all of this? Just asking this question. Where was the American flag in this monster halftime show with Beyonce? I mean, I used to like halftime shows. But when she was singing Jolene, that ain't her song. Sorry. That's a Dolly Parton song. And there's others who can sing it. But I'm going to tell you right now, Beyonce is not a country singer. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. You may disagree. That's your opinion. But for me, it didn't work. And if I'm going to watch halftime, I want to watch halftime with something I enjoy. But I've been told halftime wasn't intended for me. I'm already a viewer. They want to attract younger people to come in. Younger people are fans of Beyonce. They're fans of Post Malone. They're fans of Shabuzi. And they're trying to draw younger fans into watching NFL football. If that's the goal, fine. That's their call. It's their game. It's their people. They can do whatever they want. But I can tell you right now, I wonder if people are going to be ready to pay to watch the NFL regardless. They do it on game day, but regular folks, not so sure. There you go, folks. Now you understand. Get ready to pay to watch your football. It's coming. One of the first things that Donald Trump has promised to do when he gets inaugurated as the 47th president is to change a law. Well, change a part of the amendment, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, that has to do with a birthright in the United States. See, the rule currently is if you're born in the United States, you're automatically a citizen. Now, this goes back a long time. As a matter of fact, it goes back a long, long time, clear back to 1857. Now, back then, the Supreme Court ruled that slaves were not automatically citizens of the United States. This was the big fight that was going back on between the North and the South, and it had to do with the census. Well, that happened in 1857, and the Supreme Court says, I think it was 6-2, said, nope, not citizens. So what Congress did was they passed the Civil Rights Act in 1866 that reversed what the Supreme Court said. But the Supreme Court says, hey, wait, you can't do that. So what they did was they introduced a new amendment, the 14th Amendment. Now, the 14th Amendment says, and I quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, very important phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. This is the point of contention. This has never been argued out. This goes back to a case that happened in about 1900 about a fellow by the name of Wong Kim Ark. His parents are Chinese in the United States. He left and then couldn't get back in because they said he wasn't a citizen. Well, Supreme Court on that one, on a 6-2 decision, said, yes, he is. And that's because the parents are here legally. It'd be so if you're born here, you're a resident here. Here's the problem. Here in the United States, we have about 250,000 people a year are brought in from other countries so the ladies can have their babies here in the United States and they're citizens. That way they automatically can bring in other people, other family members. This has been a big thing. It's been a big point of contention. Now, the president's going to bring this up. He thought about doing it back when he was president last time. Didn't do it. This time he said he's going to do it. Well, this is going to create a huge fight that is probably going to end up in the Supreme Court because this has never been adjudicated having to do with whether they're here illegally. And that's what Donald Trump is saying. If you're here illegally and having a kid, you are not, that child is not automatically a citizen. If you're a resident of the United States, Child's born here, fine. That child's a citizen. But if you're not here legally, that child is not a citizen and thus can be, well, deported if necessary. Now, like I said, this is going to go to the Supreme Court. But even if it does, to change it, it's going to have to go through the House and the Senate, and then it's going to have to be voted on by the citizens of the other states. And you're going to have a majority of states to change the Constitution, because that's what they're talking about doing. Changing the Constitution. That means every state's going to have to vote on this to say, do we take individuals who are not part of the illegals, do we make their children citizens automatically? That's going to be a big road to hoe, folks. That's going to be a big, giant fight, and I can guarantee you it will end up in the Supreme Court, especially if the Supreme Court uses the term having to do with the jurisdiction thereof. That's the word. That's the key issue. And if the jurisdiction says, nope, you're not born here, if you're born here but your parents are not here legally, you're not a legal citizen. I guarantee you, this is going to the Supreme Court. How will it turn out? I do not know. But be prepared. That's going to be one of the big things on the President Trump's docket when he gets sworn in, whenever that happens to be, as the 47th President of the United States. Could it happen? Well, this is going to be a fight among all fights, and it could last for a number of years. And let's just wait and see how it all turns out. A little something for you to chew on. There you go, folks. Now you know what's coming in the next administration. Well, I want to bring you up to speed on a couple of cases in New York City that may interest you and things you may not know about those cases. But they caught my attention. I thought I'd pass it along to you. First, the Mario Mangione case. Well, he has now been arraigned in court, and he said in front of the judge, I am not guilty. And his attorney, her name is Karen Friedman Angiafiello. She is a top-rated, she's a powerhouse attorney in New York. How she got appointed to his case, I do not know. She ain't cheap. She's one of the top legal minds in the city of New York. But he says not guilty. Now, he was perp-walked, and that was one of the things she complained about at the hearing. She said, Your Honor, this is the biggest perp walk I've ever seen in my entire legal career. She said, my client cannot, I repeat, cannot get a fair case, a fair trial in the city of New York. Now, she's setting the plan, what I think she's going to be doing down the road, saying, hey, I can't get a fair hearing in this case. It's not right. I don't know about asking about a change of venue. I doubt that's going to happen, but she may try. But I think she's going to go and say, yeah, my client, he's an Ivy Leaguer, and he did what he did because he was so upset about what was happening. He's mentally deranged, Your Honor. Okay, that's probably what's going to be on. But the second case, and here's the one you probably haven't heard about. This is a case in a New York subway where a former deported illegal immigrant by the name of Sebastian Zapata from Guatemala set fire to a woman on a New York subway while she was sleeping. Cigarette lighters set her on fire and watched her burn. That's right. Watched her burn. Sat there and just went, ooh, that's cool. Like watching her burn up. Which tells me this ain't the first rodeo he's been to. Now, Mr. Zapata, as I said, is 33 years old, age. He was originally deported back in 2018 and magically showed back up in the United States. You wonder why? Because it's easy to get back in. Cartels control the border. They know what's going on. They know who to get through, how to get through. Pay enough money, they'll get you in. He was one of those that the Border Patrol didn't catch. Who knows how many there are. So, Mr. Zapata, he is being held for a murder charge. And my guess is it ain't the first time he's done this. But to sit there and to set somebody on fire, and apparently there was a camera there taking photos, nobody did anything to help this woman. They just let her burn up, which is about one of the worst ways that you could possibly be killed. So now we have two cases going on in New York City. We have Mr. Mangione's case, who now says he ain't guilty. And you've got people outside the courtroom, outside the courthouse, cheering him. You got people on television and certain shows cheering this person. saying, yes, good for him. Folks, America is getting himself down to a really bad place when you have a certain folks, and it turns out people under the age of 30, 41%, believe it was fine that he did do the murder. Let's hope they're not on the jury, or at least let's just hope. But now you know what's going on in the city of New York. More to come? Yes. But right now, it ain't pretty, folks. You got a illegal who's back in the country again, burning somebody up, and a gentleman with a gun. Now they're saying the gun was a ghost gun, was done on a 3D printing machine. No, it wasn't. Can't do that. Plastic, you can't shoot that. So what I'm guessing is it what looks like a Glock 19 with a Glock upper. That's the barrel and the slide. And the lower, yes, you could print that on his 3D printer. That's got a plastic down there. But you put a lousy can on the end of it, which is a silencer, or a noise reducer, if you will. And unfortunately, that gun will not cycle really well shooting because it won't have enough back pressure to take back the slide back and eject a shell, put a new one in. Hence, you saw him doing this. Because the silencer wasn't that good. There's a little connector on it, there's a lot of stuff going on. But it was not a plastic gun. The upper was a real Glock. The lower, yeah, probably plastic because it's not marked, so there it's a ghost gun. A little something you may not have known, but now you know. We try to give you the right information. At least everything I know up to this point, you now know. Well, once President Trump gets inaugurated on January 20th, if it does happen, don't be surprised if you hear about another potential lawsuit that he wants to bring against a former member of Congress. That former member of Congress is Liz Chaney. You know, she was a Republican from Wyoming. She's no longer in Congress. She has left, but she was on the January 6th Unselect Committee, one of a couple of Republicans who were Trump haters, and they were on the committee, and she's being accused of a report that just came out that says she was involved with witness tampering against one of the witnesses at the January 6th hearings. Her name was Chastity Hutchinson. Now, according to the report, Chastity met with Liz Chaney, and Liz told her to get a different attorney because the attorney she had at the time was from the Trump Legal Defense Fund, and ultimately she got a different attorney who was apparently working with the Democrats, I think. Well, anyway, when she testified in front of the committee, she said that she had heard about something that happened, and she didn't see it, didn't experience it. It was that she heard it from somebody else. And I don't know about you, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's hearsay. It doesn't normally count, but in Congress, who cares? Anything counts. Well, anyway, they're saying that what happened was that Ms. Chaney was tampering with Ms. Hutchinson as a witness. Well, here's the deal. They want this to go to the Justice Department for her to be prosecuted. To tell you the truth, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't, and I'll tell you why. There's a thing called the Free Speech and Debate Clause in Congress. And I've seen this used a few times, as a matter of fact, a lot of times, where in Congress, they can say anything they want about anybody because they're a member of Congress under the Free Speech and Debate Clause. So anything they say or do in Congress, they can't be held responsible for. Now, Jamie Raskin says, well, yeah, but if they do something outside of Congress, like paying for sex with young girls, buying cocaine and drugs, yeah, they can be charged with that. He was talking about Matt Gaetz, just saying what he was doing. But anyway, if this goes to the Justice Department, even though it would be a Trump Justice Department, I do not believe this is going to end up in court. I just don't. Simply because, like I said, Free Speech and Debate Clause, and Congress would be up in arms about this, and that would create another bad situation. So, realizing that Trump is very unhappy with Liz Chaney, but it is what it is. And they are going to utilize the Free Speech and Debate Clause in the Constitution to say that she can do anything because investigators always talk to witnesses. Didn't know Liz Chaney was an investigator, but apparently she was, according to Jamie Raskin. So now you know, Cassidy Hutchinson, who appeared in front of the Unselect Committee of January 6th, who was talking to Liz Chaney, and Liz told her to get a different lawyer, which she did, qualifies as witness tampering. Will that end up in the Justice Department, and will she be charged with a crime? I do not believe so. There's a lot of things going on in Washington, D.C., none of which is pretty, but this is another example of nobody being held responsible for anything they do as long as they're a member of Congress and they're speaking in Congress for whatever it is they want to say. They can't be touched. Now you understand how the system works. It ain't pretty, but that's the way it is. Well, instead of politics, what do you say we talk about the world of sports? And because it's the end of the year, we're getting into bowl games. And it just so happens that one of the teams playing a bowl game happens to be the University of Colorado. Now, not a big deal, right? Well, it is this one, because Colorado is coached by none other than Dion Sanders, Neon Dion they call him. He's the coach, and they're playing in the Alamo Bowl in San Antonio, Texas. Well, Coach Neon Dion, who you've seen in the Aflac commercials, you know, Aflac Duck, whatever, he told his players, all right, y'all, listen up. Nobody better be smoking. Now, this is kind of weird when you think about it. I don't think most players, really, your athletes, I mean, smoking cigarettes, I don't think anybody really does that anymore, at least I'm not aware of it. Or maybe I'm wrong. Well, no, apparently it's not cigarettes Neon Dion is talking about. He said, if I smell any smoke on the floor, if I get someone that tells me somebody is smoking on the floor, that's your last puff. He said, I'm trying to tell you it'll be your last puff. I hope it's good because it's going to be your last one, he says. If I smell smoke on your clothes at a practice, in the morning, at breakfast, anything, it's going to be your last time. Coach Prime telling his players, y'all better not be smoking. I don't think it's cigarettes, friends. I do not believe it's cigarettes. Now, in Colorado, just so you understand, marijuana in Colorado is legal. That's right, recreational marijuana in the state of Colorado is legal. So, in Colorado, Neon Dion can't say to his players, y'all don't be smoking a bowl, you know? Because you're going to a bowl. And the bowl you're going to is not in a state that allows smoking. That's Texas, San Antonio, and the Alamo Bowl. So Neon Dion is telling his players, y'all don't be smoking a bowl in Alamo. So that's the way it stands. So now you understand the way things work, because marijuana is legal in a number of states and illegal in most states. Texas is one of the states that's one of those, most states, where it's not legal. And he doesn't want any of his players being caught, and because they could be arrested in San Antonio, and they could be off the team for the game and miss the game. So he gives them the stern warning. Nobody better be smoking a bowl in San Antonio. So that's what it is, folks. That's where we stand. Marijuana legal in some states, but not others. And Neon Dion is just being a father figure to these players, saying, please, gentlemen, nobody be lighting up a blunt when you're in San Antonio, Texas, because it ain't legal. You get back to Colorado, smoke your brains out, but don't do it in Colorado or in San Antonio, because there it ain't legal. Now you understand what's going on in the world of sports, and I guess in the world of the legalization of the drug marijuana. Well, anybody who lives in the state of New York, you might want to pay attention to a little law that was just signed into law by Governor Kathy Hocul. And what she did was she said, hey, this new law will charge energy companies, you know, like the Exxons and Mobils, those kind of people, Shell Oil, $75 billion, you heard me right, $75 billion over the next 25 years, and the money will be going into the Climate Change Superfund of the state of New York. $75 billion. Now, let me ask you this. Who do you think is going to pay that $75 billion to the state of New York? You think the oil companies are going to say, oh yeah, let's just open up our wallets here. Let's peel out $75 billion over the next 25 years and pay it to the state of New York. Not that other states won't try the same thing, because my guess is they probably will. But who do you think will bear the brunt actually of paying that supposed $75 billion over the next 25 years? Will it be the oil companies? No, it won't be. The people who will be paying the $75 billion, if it does go into effect, will be the customers at the pump. Think about it this way. You go to the state of California, you know how much you're going to pay for a gallon of regular gas? Over $5. Now, you might be paying, say, $3, $3.20 here in the state of Indiana. California, you're paying over $5, because all the costs that the government puts onto the oil companies, they pass along. It's common sense. That's the way business works. Businesses don't pay taxes. They pass along to their customers. Well, this $75 billion bill is ultimately going to be passed to the residents of New York. Now, the oil companies are not happy about it, but they know they can shift it on to the customer and the price of gas that they buy at the pump when they go to the gas station. Or, now here's one thing to think about. Would the companies, the oil companies, say, we aren't doing business in the state of New York? Can they do that? I don't know. Maybe they could. But think about it. If a company, all these oil companies say, you know what, we're not going to do business in the state of New York. We're not going to sell gasoline in the state. We're not going to do that because we're going to be taxed for it. So we're going to withhold our services. Withhold our services to the state of New York and not sell our product to New York. Now, would every company do that in New York? Well, right now the only big companies are the ones being hit with the big money. But imagine what it would be in New York if nobody could buy gas. You'd have to go to New Jersey, buy your gas? Who knows? I'm just telling you what could happen. However, will the bill end up in front of a court? Probably. We'll see what happens. But right now, what you know is Kathy Hocul, the governor of New York, has just signed a $75 billion bill charging the oil companies a whole lot of money for the next 25 years. And I'll tell you right now, if someone pays, it's going to be the customer. They are going to pay for that bill in a form of another tax. A tax on gasoline that could drive the price way, way up. Just something to think about. Or else maybe the gas companies could say we're not selling gasoline in New York anymore. Wouldn't that be an interesting choice? Just something to think about. That's the world of how politics works, folks. It's not pretty, it's ugly. And in New York, it's about to get really, really ugly. Well, if you think things have gone from bad to worse, allow me to bring this up to you. At the hearing against Luigi Mangione and his potential upcoming trial involving the assassination of the head of the United Healthcare, he was perp-walked into court. He was wearing a particular sweater. Yeah, I'm talking about a particular sweater. People thought it was a $1,000 sweater, but it turns out it was not. It was a sweater that was available at Nordstrom department store for about $90. Well, apparently that sweater is being sold out. People want to have his sweater because now they're going, oh, free Luigi. This is where we are, America. This is what's happened. So you get a 26-year-old who comes out wearing a sweater that everybody wants to have. And Nordstrom apparently has it. It comes in various colors. Apparently, the color that he was wearing when he went into court for his hearing is supposedly no longer available. I don't know. It's not something I cover. But here's the thing. When he went into court, his attorney said, Your Honor, my client, Mr. Mangione, cannot get a fair trial because of this perp walk I talked about. When he was first arrested in New York, they had a huge perp walk. And then another one, which you've seen. There he is being ushered around. But the attorney representing Mr. Mangione, who's a highfalutin big-time attorney, she said, hey, the mayor of New York was present for the perp walk. He was involved in the perp walk, Your Honor. And there is no way the city of New York that Mr. Mangione can get a fair trial. Because they see what the mayor says, everything's going on. Whatever the mayor says, people in New York elected him, and therefore they're going to basically do what he says because they don't want to offend the mayor. Now the judge says, well, we'll get you a fair trial. Well, that's the judge speaking. I can't guarantee anything. Because in New York, if they're against you no matter what. So we'll see what happens. Is that attorney working on a potential appeal down the road saying that he didn't get a fair trial if it comes out guilty? Well, you might be surprised. But anyway, if you want to have a sweater, you can get it at Nordstrom's. I think they're on sale for 30% off, about $63. If that's your life, that's the way you want to live, have at it. But right now, the whole thing to me sounds pretty doggone sick. Well, I happened to run across a couple of very interesting articles in the news, and I thought I would pass them along to you. It involves a former senator in the United States Senate and a top Democrat fundraiser for the Democrat Party. Two people kind of echoing the same thing. Here's the deal. Now, Joe Manchin, as you know, was a former senator from West Virginia and has stepped down. And he was interviewed saying, what happened? Why'd you leave the party? And he said, here's the deal. He said, my grandfather was a fan of FDR. My parents were fans of JFK. He said, I've been a Democrat my entire life. But the Democratic Party today is not the Democratic Party of John F. Kennedy or FDR. He said it's changed, has been taken over by a very far extremist group, extremist faction, if you will. Has become a real big problem. And I just couldn't stay with that. Said, I don't want to say I'm against them. It's not the party that he originally was a member of. He said, I'm a Democrat, always have been. But the party is leaving him. He ain't leaving the party. Now, that's his opinion, and he's entitled to it. But here's one even bigger. A recent interview with a lady by the name of Lindy Lee. She is a prominent Democrat National Committee fundraiser. And I mean, she is one of the big fundraisers. She raised millions of dollars for the Democrat Party and for Joe Biden. She's a strategist. And she was recently interviewed, and she said, you know what? She said, I'm done. The Democrat Party has turned into, it's like a cult. And I want out of this. This ain't really good. Why? Because she went on to Fox TV, on to Shannon Breen's show, I think it's Sunday morning, and said what she said, hey, here's what's going on. She said, Joe Biden, back in 2000, he was fine, but he rapidly went downhill. And she and a lot of other people knew about it. And nobody said a word, covered up. She said, everybody's covering up what's going on. And when the Biden administration found out that she was going to appear on Fox News, she got a phone call the night before saying, you will give Joe a really good report. You will say the right stuff, won't you? Sort of like if you don't, you're sleeping with the fishes. She said this is a threat. And she said the party has turned into this. Now, unfortunate, yes. But this is what can happen. And my worry, as a regular citizen, who is running the White House if Biden was, incapacitated because of Alzheimer's? Call it what you will. My concern is who had their finger or their hand on the football. The football is a device that can launch World War III and kill everybody on this planet. That part I don't know. But I am concerned that now you find people in the Democratic Party, especially like Ms. Lindy Lee, the big fundraiser, saying, hey, this place has turned into a cult. Is this going to help Democrats get elected back in 2028? I don't know. But I can tell you this. Two people, prominent Democrats, said, we're out. This place has gone way, way far to the left. And I mean really to the left. Just saying their opinion, not mine. Well, I don't know about you, but I am what is known as a baby boomer. Now, baby boomers were born between 1946 and now 1964. And that age demographic, we've seen a lot of stuff in our lives. We've experienced a lot of stuff. We've been through a lot of decades. And as a as an ode, if you will, to those who were baby boomers born from 1946 to 1964. Here's my ode to a boomer. And it goes like this. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. I've gone to Kansas City. I've sang in the sunshine. I've been on the road again with Georgia on my mind. Like a rolling stone, I've given peace a chance. I put on my camel to bed and danced the last dance. Mr. Tambourine Man played the song for me. I whispered words of wisdom. Let it be. I fell into a burning ring of fire and walked the line. To all the girls I've loved before, you were always on my mind. I've been everywhere. I've been so lonesome I could cry. I've driven my Chevy to the levee when the levee was dry. I've been to Ichiku Park in the Yellow Submarine. I made the scene in a time machine. I've done the hokey pokey and turned myself around. I welcome baby back to the poor side of town. I've followed the tracks of my tears down that long and winding road. I've docked and rocked around the clock on the sunny side of the day. I've knocked on heaven's door, blowing in the wind, joy to the world. Those were the days, my friend. Lay, lady, lay, in crimson and clover. It's been a hard day's night, and the party, it's over. Now, my ode to a boomer. Anyone who is a boomer who knows exactly what that reflection means, what we've seen, what we've done. When you realize that we've been around for a lot of decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Hey, new millennium, you name it, we've done it. So this is my little ode to you guys. If you're a part of that group, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, too bad. You have missed a lot.